Hajime, welcome back to Comic-Jutsu. I'm JT McRoberts, and today we're going to answer the question, how did Grant Morrison make Barbenheimer cool before it was cool? That's right, we're going to take a look, a special preview look, an overview, if you will, at Grant Morrison's masterpiece, seminal work, The Invisibles from Vertigo Comics, a product of DC at one time. At the time of your viewing of this video, Vertigo may or may not be a thing again. We'll see how. Only time can tell. But anyway, before Barbenheimer, there was The Invisibles. Check this out. There's your Barbie in the form of Lord Fanny. Very funny. Hopefully that doesn't get me kicked off YouTube. And right there is your Oppenheimer. I am become death, the shatterer of worlds. When I saw the Oppenheimer trailer in the theater for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I enjoyed, by the way, I immediately thought of Grant Morrison's The Invisibles, and even those angles, that Kubrickian approach that Christopher Nolan takes, that straight on, one point perspective. I just immediately thought of the shots here in The Invisibles. He appears a few times throughout there. There you see the Omnibus collection. But since we've already done a video on the Omnibus here on the channel, I figure we would give you a little bit of a preview of an upcoming ongoing feature, where I'm going to do a walkthrough or commentary, if you prefer, for all of the issues of Grant Morrison's The Invisibles, in chronological order, if you will. Here you see the 3 volumes of The Invisibles, or the first issue of each of those 3 volumes. Number 1, Volume 1, Number 1, Volume 2, and Number 12, Volume 3. For the 3rd volume, it actually counted down to the end of the millennium, or the beginning of the millennium, depending on which way one looks at it, starting at 12 and counting down. Although they sadly missed their final target, and those final issues were released much past the turn of the year. But it was fun nonetheless. So I'm going to do my best to bring you both my personal perspective on these issues as a reader, as an individual, as a creator or artist, even in relation to what I was reading in real time and experiencing in real time. Because you may have heard about the infamous Wankathon for The Invisibles, but have you ever met anyone that actually participated? Right here, buddy. Yep, I can finally be proud of that. But because of me, The Invisibles exists, and I'm going to do my part to spread a little bit of the anarchy to the masses. So you can see here I have the Disinformation Guide to The Invisibles, published by Disinformation, one of my favorite publishers. They're definitely always on the cutting edge of things. This is a complete guide to every issue of The Invisibles. It has lots of neat little annotations in here, quotes from different interviews with Morrison, all kinds of stuff. But we'll use that to make our way through all of the issues and even discuss the notorious letters pages. I thought for a fun little exercise here, I would show you some of the covers. I pulled out my issues. Mind you, some of these, well, a lot of these I'm going to show you through Volume 1 and 2 are actually rebuys, because at one point I tore up my copies of The Invisibles. I don't know if I should tell that story now or later, but I was doing kind of a Burroughs cut-up thing, and I thought, I love this series, but sometimes when you meet the Buddha, you got to kill the Buddha. So I ripped them all up and mixed them up just to see what would come out on top, through that kind of chaotic approach. But anyway, The Invisibles. I was there in real time. I'd love to tell you that I was on board from issue 1, but I wasn't. I saw the issue and I just thought, oh man, that looks weird. It looks typically weird from the dude that made Doom Patrol just weird. I say that because I'm a huge Doom Patrol fan, and I always was. And at the time, I was a big Doom Patrol fan until Grant Morrison took over, and I just thought, man, this stuff is weird. I wasn't ready for it at the time. And, I fully didn't have the chance to really fully read the first 4 issues or so until I borrowed it from a guy at school. My RA had a stack of just all of the great comic books that one would want to see at the time. I mean, he even had big numbers, just totally bizarre stuff like that. But anyway, early Sandman stuff, Miracle Man, Grant Morrison's Animal Man, Beautiful Stories for Ugly Children. He probably had some Peter Baggs hate and some of that stuff at the time too. I'm not certain. It was kind of just a weird pile that I didn't mess with. I gravitated more towards the superhero-like things, like Morrison's Animal Man, which I thought the first few issues was a perfectly serviceable superhero story. But then it got to issue 5, and I was like, I don't know, I was taken aback. I was nonplussed. I didn't know what to think about it exactly. I thought, this is an interesting concept, but the way it kind of crosses genres and breaks all the rules, I'm not sure if I'm on board for it. But anyway, like all good things, it just took a matter of time for Morrison's work to just kind of sink its way deeper into my psyche, where I started to really appreciate it. Okay, there's the final issue of Volume 1. Now, mind you, there was a delay in here somewhere. I'm trying to remember. Morrison actually got sick during the writing of the King Mob stuff. He kind of in a tongue-in-cheek way talks about comics being chaos magic or whatever, and this character of King Mob is very much an avatar for him, both intentionally and otherwise. And he gets captured and tortured here and subjected to all these weird visitations and hallucinations. And mind you, I couldn't find the first 2 parts of this King Mob storyline, which is one of my favorites, which makes me think I still have it here somewhere. I've just put it in a different box, and at the moment I can't find it because I had to replace all these books because I tore them up. I know it's insane. But once you're a collector of my level, my caliber, or whatever, you don't care about what kind of shape your books are in, unless it's something that you got a hold of that's just suddenly valuable that you weren't expecting. You usually plan to hold on to most of your books. You don't plan to sell them or whatever. But your mileage may vary. I know some people like to think of their books as an investment that they're leaving to their family or what have you. So anyway, that's Volume 1. Let's get Volume 2 over here. Starts right there. Now at this point, this is all post-Wankathon here, Volume 2. The Wankathon was, I believe, somewhere earlier in Volume 1. I'll have to go back and revisit the dates. Morrison had the good fortune of having steady artists on Volume 2, and putting Phil Jimenez on there really opened it up, I think, to a wider audience, because I know some of my close friends who weren't really into the book during Volume 1, mainly because of the inconsistent artwork, which, I mean, I don't know, there's all kinds of behind-the-scenes stories about that stuff. I'm sure we'll cover it when we get to those issues. But anyway, the slick and sexy look of Phil Jimenez on these characters really sold the Invisibles with Volume 2. Plus, for me, it's probably, I want to say it's my favorite volume because it focuses on America and crazy American conspiracies and whatnot. But I really love Volume 1. See lots of fun things there. The aliens, the abduction. But anyway, this Oppenheimer appears in, I'm trying to remember which individual issue it is. I just grabbed one of the shots in the omnibus to show to you earlier in the video, but he pops up back and forth throughout this volume because that is that whole event is a catalyst for other things that happened in the Invisibles. I don't want to give too much away, but it's like the immediate conspiracy of it was that because of the bomb going off, it opened the rift over Roswell and let aliens, whatever aliens are, that's part of the exploration of the Invisibles, and let them into this world, into this reality. So, pretty cool stuff. That's the fun thing about, don't know what I've done with number 2 here as well. So I've got about 4 issues that are currently missing, though I thought I had pretty much all of them. That's the fun thing about the Invisibles. It's what if all the conspiracy theories that you know are true. It's a lot of fun if you're kind of a conspiracy head. Now, of course, we live in that world where everything is a conspiracy. But in a lot of ways, the Invisibles was an early training ground for how to think like that and how to deal with it. Now, here we get into double agent kind of stuff. There's actually some spoilers here on the cover, but, you know, I figured we'd do a little kind of a flip through of the covers. So these look pretty neat. Great Brian Bolland work here. I've just been admiring the artwork and didn't point out the brilliance on display. Anytime someone can get Brian Bolland to do their covers, you know you're in for some great work. This is a cool image. I wouldn't mind having this as some kind of a poster image almost. There's a lot happening in this. Last but not least, Volume 3. I'll sort of flip it open. Philip Bond is the steady artist on this. I liked it. It was, though to me, you know, I had been spoiled by Phil Jimenez and Chris Weston on the previous volume. But I like Bond's work in this. It worked for me. The people that got to like the slickness and sleekness and sexiness of Phil Jimenez, though, might have lost touch a little bit with Bond. I mean, I don't know, his kind of the chunkier inclines, it's not as slick, but the work itself becomes much more atmospheric, like this great Wicker Man shot there. That's brilliant stuff. But anyway, continuing our countdown. These covers are great. I'm probably going to regret that, the way these keep smacking on the counter here as I show them to you. Mr. Six, great character, based on Jason King. Unashamedly, I suppose. This is a great, I remember showing this to one of my buddies who's in a band before one of their shows, and he just started freaking out. He's like, quit showing me stuff that's freaking me out. That is a great image. There's Tom O'Bedlam, the Harlequin, King Mob, and Ragged Robin. And then the Invisibles #1. It really, you know, kind of weirded me out to have a point in time that is represented by this book. I mean, it was this future point, this end of the world with the whole Mayan calendar and everything. Yeah, that's one of the many myths and magics and conspiracies that's woven into the Invisibles. So with this final issue taking place on that date, it was another strange experience to actually live up to that date and then through it, you know, and start to examine, well, you know, what of the Invisibles, what fabric actually became true, became real, what actually went out there. And of course, the Matrix was a huge offshoot of the Invisibles, so much in fact that Grant Morrison actually sued at one point, though he dropped the case, and he thought, you know, I created this to be, I guess kind of in his words, a hyper sigil that would go out into the world and take on a life of its own. And because the Matrix did what the Matrix did, you know, that's part of its magic, the magic of the Invisibles. So there you go. It all starts with Oppenheimer, a little bit of a different Barbie, if you will, and you put it all together, you got Barbenheimer. Grant Morrison's The Invisibles. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this preview. Subscribe to the channel so you can follow along as I do my issue by issue walkthrough with my commentary and breakdown plus some insight from people who actually know what they're talking about, such as Anarchy for the Masses from this disinformation guide to The Invisibles. Thanks for watching.